here. Let's give Jamie a round of applause. She was the real winner there. Thank you for your service, Jamie. So this is kind of an awkward transition from that to this. Here we go. So, Jason asked if I would play a song here, and I think it was, without him actually saying it, it was kind of more of a special number kind of deal, not necessarily a worship song. And so, what you normally get when a pastor tells you to do a special number, that in the church, what that usually means, if you're not doing a worship song, it's, hey, let me play some sort of, secular song that kind of sounds like a worship song. So normally like a Coldplay song or something will go well here. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go a different way. So this song is from an artist that I really love. He's not a believer, not a Christian guy, but when I heard this song, I at first thought it was a Christian song on the radio. I heard it on Spotify several years ago. It's called Jesus, Jesus, and it's basically him as a non-believer sort of crying out to God, crying out to Jesus, and sort of asking him questions about the world and about the church. And while I don't necessarily connect with the song and the way that he wrote it and the things that he are saying, I think that it's really important for us to sort of listen to people who are singing these songs and are saying these things about the church and their view on the church. And I think that that is a good place to start and to see where we may be going wrong. Maybe not necessarily wrong, but how we can be better. I think that's a better way to put it. Anyway, this song is called Jesus, Jesus. Jesus, Jesus, could you tell me what the problem is with the world and all the people in it? Because I've been hearing stories about the end of the world, but I'm in love with the girl and I don't want to leave her. And the television screams such hideous things. They're talking about the war on the radio. They say the whole thing's gonna blow, and we will all be left alone. Now we'll be dead, and we won't know what hit us. Jesus, Jesus, if you're up there, won't you hear me? 'Cause I've been wondering if you're listening for quite a while. Jesus, Jesus is such a pretty place we live in, and I know we messed it up, so please be kind. Don't let us go out like the dinosaurs. There are 100 different things I'd still like to do. I'd like to climb to the top of the Eiffel Tower, look up from the ground at a meteor shower, and maybe even raise a family. Jesus, Jesus, there are those that say they love you, but they have treated me so mean. And I know you said forgive them, for they know not what they do. But sometimes I think they do when I think about you. If all the heathens burn in hell, do all their children burn as well? What about the Muslims and the gays and the unwed mothers? What about me and all my friends? Are we all sinners if we sin? Does it even matter in the end if we're unhappy? Jesus, Jesus, I'm still looking for answers.
though I know that I won't find them here tonight. But Jesus, Jesus, could you call me if you have the time? Maybe we could drink some whiskey and work it out. And maybe then I'll understand. Maybe then I'll understand. Maybe then I'll understand you.
That's it. Thank you.
So last time we did this, we sent out a survey, said, hey, what'd you think? And a lot of the results were, hey, we like music, we should do more music. So we thought we'd do a little more music. And we scratched our heads. So who wants to do some more music? So anyway, so Dahlia and I are going to do a song here. This is also not a churchy Christian song, but it has some meaningful, emotional, healthy themes to it. It's a song that I've found that I've just really appreciated over the past year. So, it's from Bird Talker, the song Heavy. All right? If you're lost and you're alone, go and figure out why. Take a trip to the dark side. Go on and have a good cry. 'Cause we're all lonely. We're all lonely together.
always love the music part. Right now, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, I would like to take a moment to give you some time to slow down. Take a couple of nice deep breaths. Turn it up.
Warner. Go ahead.
Hello? Better?
Just keep moving and
Okay. So we're going to make some space for you just to take a moment to slow down. So go ahead and take a couple of nice, slow, deep breaths in and out. Even over there at the kids' table. Take a nice, big, deep breath. It's good. It's good. Take a deep breath. Look around and smile at each other. It's really good to be together, even if you're smiling behind your mask. Good smiles. I see you smiling. All are welcome here. In hard times, goodness has a way of lifting us back up a little bit. You're struggling, and then someone smiles when you pass them on the street. That's goodness. You drop something in a busy line at the store, causing you to make a slow line go even slower. Then, instead of people being annoyed with you making things even slower, someone picks up what you dropped and says, "No worries." That's goodness. Your work project is taking longer than your boss wants. Then instead of being angry with you, she checks up on you and asks if you need extra help wrapping it up. That's goodness. Or maybe your boss is taking out their anxiety on you, and then you get out of the office for a lunch break, and the sun is shining on you, bright and hopeful, while you eat your lunch. It refuels you for the rest of the day. That's goodness. Maybe school plans are causing you stress. You just want to know what's happening, and then you get one more piece of information. One more piece of the puzzle clears up. That's goodness. Maybe you're feeling down. The unknown feels heavy and burdensome, and then a sweet baby gives you a smile or a laugh or wraps their chubby arms around your neck. That's goodness too. Goodness shows up in our lives in all kinds of different ways. Take a few moments, if you can, to close your eyes and see if you can think of 2 things that happened in your life today that were good. Maybe you had a sleepover with friends, maybe you had a delicious breakfast, a nap this afternoon, or maybe you completed a big project. I don't know what it might be for you, but see if you can take just a second here and think of 2 good things that happened to you today. Now I want all of us to think of those 2 things and remember that every good gift is from above. God is found in the good gifts. God is a giver of good things. That nap, that meal, that friendship, that quiet song, whatever you thought of for you, that is the goodness of God being present in your life. Every good and perfect gift comes from above. So while we're waiting for hardship to pass, or things to change, or return to normal, keep looking for the good stuff. That's a way that you can find God in your experiences. Goodness can soothe our tired souls. Goodness can act like a balm on wounds that are as of yet unhealed. Goodness has a way of bringing warmth to the colder, harder parts of our lives. Goodness can heal, so keep looking for it.
I'm back. Give me 1 second here. I taped everything together because last time everything started blowing away. A little breeze. I just want to say that it is really good to see everyone tonight. Sometimes I come in here on Sunday mornings and it's just Jason and I. I like Jason a lot, but we need some more people in that room. It's getting old. So I'm going to play a couple songs that we play sometimes here in Life Church, worship type songs. I don't know all of your backgrounds and your connection to worship songs. Growing up, I never listened to worship music. And to this day, it's not something that I always listen to. And I think that I was thinking about it today, and part of the reason I think that worship music just used to be kind of bad. Like there wasn't a lot of artistic freedom, I guess you could say, within the church to make good music. Not just music that is glorifying to God, lyrically speaking, but I don't think that artists had a lot of freedom to write music that that really exemplified the art, I guess you could say. I'm just talking now, so stop me at some point. I'm saying all that to say that these songs that I chose are songs that I actually really like as songs. I think that is something that is important if you are going to connect with a song, especially a worship song. I think that it doesn't need to be something that we just do inside this building. That I think that art and music and worship music specifically can be something that is a part of our lives outside of the church. And I think finally there's this new breed of musician and artists that are making these songs and this art that is, I don't know, to me really cool. And I hope you understand what I'm saying. I'm not exactly a public speaker. Anyway, this song is called So Will I.
God of creation, there at the start, before the beginning of time. With no point of reference, you spoke to the dark and fleshed out the wonder of light. And as you speak, 100 billion galaxies are born. In the vapor of your breath, the planets form. If the stars are made to worship, so will I can see your heart in everything you've made. Every burning star, a signal fire of grace. If creation sings your praises, so will I. And God of your promise, you don't speak in vain, no syllable empty or void. For once you have spoken, all nature and science follow the sound of your voice. And as you speak, 100 billion creatures catch your breath, evolving in pursuit of what you said. If it all reveals your nature, so will I can see your heart in everything you say. Every painted sky, a canvas of your grace. If creation still obeys you, so will I. If the stars were made to worship, so will I. If the mountains bow in reverence, so will I. If the oceans roar your greatness, so will I. For if everything exists to lift you high, so will I. If the wind goes where you send it, so will I. If the rocks cry out in silence, so will I. If the sum of all our praises still falls shy, then we'll sing again 100 billion times. God of salvation, you chased down my heart through all of my failure and pride. On a hill you created, the light of the world, abandoned in darkness to die. And as you speak, 100 billion failures disappeared. Where you lost your life so I could find it here. If you left the grave behind you, so will I. I can see your heart in everything you've done. Every part designed in a work of art called love. If you gladly chose surrender, so will I. I can see your heart 8 billion different ways. Every precious one, a child you died to save. If you gave your life to love them, so will I. Like you would again 100 billion times. But what measure could amount to your desire? You're the one who never leaves the one behind. Thank you.
This next one, another song I really like. So when we are choosing songs to play at Life Church, especially when we're introducing a new song, one thing we have to keep in mind is that people have to be able to sing the song. It's a lot better if there's not a lot of words and it repeats itself so that people can kind of remember the song, and that is what we call congregational singing. The problem is that a lot of the songs that I connect with aren't exactly that. So they're very verbose. A lot of words, like that song that I just sung, So Will I, has 1,000 words. None of it repeats itself. And I think that that's okay. This song is called The Love of God. The reason that I really connected with this song is this verse 3. That when I heard that this verse, it just connected with me so strongly. And I'm going to read it here. It says, "Could we with ink the ocean fill, and were the skies of parchment made, were every stalk on earth a quill, and every man a scribe by trade, to write the love of God above would drain the ocean dry, nor could the scroll contain the whole, though stretched from sky to sky." And just the poetry in that verse I don't know, it just really moved me and connected with me. And so I was curious about this song. The version that we play at Life Church is kind of a really upbeat rock and roll type of style, and it's by a band called Ascend to the Hill. But this is actually a hymn that was written hundreds of years ago, which I didn't know at that point, but I kind of did a little digging on the history of it. And so it was technically written by this guy, Frederick Lehman was his name, born in Germany in the 1800s. He heard a preacher on the radio in the late 1800s, early 1900s, who was telling the story about a prisoner who was in an insane asylum. And he scrawled these words to that verse 3, on the wall. They just assumed that it was in a moment of clarity. And so they didn't know where this came from. They did more digging, and apparently it turns out that it was composed around the year 1100 by a Jewish rabbi. And years later, after Frederick Lehman, immigrated to the U.S., he was doing a manual labor job at a lemon factory. For some reason, this verse that he heard, this verse of the song, that he heard back when he was in Germany, that this preacher was talking about, he remembered it, and he wrote the rest of the song around that verse. I don't know, I thought that was really cool, because for me, in the year 2020, it still really moves me and connects with me. And so, like I said, it's not the best congregational song to sing along to, but I still like to play it from time to time. The Love of God, that's what the song is called.
The love of God is greater far than tongue or pen can never tell. It goes beyond the highest star and reaches to the lowest hell. The guilty pair bow down with care. God gave his only son to win. His erring child he reconciled. You and I pardon from our sin. Oh, love of God, how rich and pure. It shall forevermore endure. How measureless and strong the saints and angels' song we sing. Holy, holy. When ancient time shall pass away and earthly thrones and kingdoms fall, when men here refuse to pray and rocks, hills, and mountains call, God's love so sure shall still endure, all measureless and strong. Redeeming grace to Adam's race shall be the saints and angels' song. Could we think the ocean fill, and were the skies of parchment made, were every stalk on earth a quill, and every man a scribe by trade, to write the love of God above would drain the ocean dry, nor could the scroll contain the whole, though stretched from sky to sky. Oh, love of God, how rich and pure. It shall forevermore endure. How measureless and strong the saints and angels' song we sing. Holy, holy, yeah. Oh, love
Thank you.
Hey, that was fantastic, huh? That is former lead singer of the, wait, not lead singer, I don't know, former participant in the Pig Merchants, Adam Rohr. Thanks for that. Hey, well, once again, thanks for coming. There's a lot of heaviness in the air these days, right? I need to adjust this a little bit more. There we go. A lot of heaviness in our culture, in our world, in our lives. A lot of heaviness. There's there's the pandemic, which is why we're sitting out here, which is really nice out here to be outdoors tonight. But there's the pandemic, and there's political arguments even around the pandemic that are heavy and can be frustrating. There's an election bearing down on us, with two sides being pretty hostile towards one another. Many of us are facing personal struggles and trials and difficulties rooted in the pandemic, like job changes or maybe other family dynamics, family situations that are more difficult. Many of us have spent the summer stressing about our kids, right, in school. What are we going to do with our kids? Are they going back to school? Is the school going to open? Is it going to be full-time? Is it going to be part-time? Is it going to be digital? Are we going to homeschool? Are we going to send them to school? Living with a lot of heaviness around decisions like that and a lot of unknowns. And it's in times like this, every now and again, I think about this verse that comes from the book of Ecclesiastes, these few verses. And if you ever feel a little dismal about life, Ecclesiastes is your book. You can pull that out and feel like misery has company. Because the writer of Ecclesiastes, he opens the book by saying, meaningless, everything is meaningless. But by the time you get to chapter 7, he makes this statement. He says this, he says, it's better to go to a house of mourning. That's mourning, like sad, crying mourning, not like morning or evening. It's better to go to a house of mourning than to a house of feasting. For death is the destiny of everyone, and the living should take this to heart. So he says it's better to go to a funeral than to go to a party, because at the end of the day, life is short. It's good to be reminded of our mortality, he says. He says the living should take this to heart. And then he goes on and says this. He says frustration is better than laughter. Like, that's my theme verse. I'm going to put that on my coffee cup. Frustration is better than laughter because a sad face is good for the heart. Maybe that's not true always in every situation, but maybe he's trying to tell us something there. Sad face is good for the heart. Then he goes on to say this: the heart of the wise is in the house of the mourning, but the heart of fools is in the house of pleasure. We recognize part of what he's pushing against here. If we just live in the world of pleasure and fun and excitement and party, we're going to miss something. There's not the full experience of life. We're going to become fools if that's the only place we dwell. And so he's saying there's another side to this. There's the funeral. There's the sad face. There's the frustration. And that's an important part of life. A wise person is going to embrace it. A wise person is going to learn from it. A wise person is going to take it to heart. And what Solomon is telling us is something very counterintuitive, right? It kind of goes against human nature. We want to run towards the party and away from some of the more sad experiences in life. But hard times, and part of what he's saying is hard times can produce fruit. Hard times can be good for us. Hard times can help us prioritize our lives in new ways. Hard times can help us recenter ourselves in important ways. Hard times can help us see how we might have gotten distracted, how we might have lost our way, can help us renew our center. Hard times can keep us grounded. And yet, we often fear hard times, right? We fear difficulty. We fear pain. I don't know how many people you're familiar with the Enneagram, but it's a person. It's not a person. I don't know what it is. It's a way to understand yourself, the Enneagram. But I'm a number 7 on the Enneagram, and one thing about a number 7 that I have learned is that 7s don't like pain. Most people don't like pain, but sevens don't like it more than most, I guess. We run from it. And a lot of us run from pain. I've learned that I've run from a lot of pain in my life. But we fear pain, and so therefore we run from it. And our fear leads us to ignore it, leads us to avoid it, leads us to press it down, leads us to pretend like everything is fine, because it's scary to face a fear. It's scary to walk into a hardship. It's scary to walk into pain. Now, this is something that people have recognized throughout human history, and actually the ancient philosopher Seneca, he had a practice that he encouraged his students to do. All right, so this is what Seneca said. He says, "Set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and the cheapest of fare," of food, right? With coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself all the while, "Is this the condition that I feared?" Right? So he says, get yourself some terrible food, the scantiest of food, dress in sackcloth and ashes, something terrible, right? And go on the street corner and, kind of like, and beg for a minute and say, is this what I feared so bad? Is this the worst that it gets? It's a way to sort of toughen up the soul towards hardship and pain, to kind of face it and experience it. Today we might say, you should go camping. And you'll experience the same thing, right? I like camping, but a lot of people are critical of camping. Sleeping outside on the ground for vacation. So the philosopher saw that there was wisdom in purposely choosing to experience hardship, because it has a refining experience and a strengthening effect in our lives. Now, I'm not here today to suggest that you figure out how to make your life harder today, right? What would make your life more difficult, and go do that this week. That's not what I'm here to say, because sometimes we should choose that path. And I'm going to bet that most of us would say right now, in the midst of a pandemic and an economic crisis and job crisis and every other crisis that we're facing right now, life is complicated enough. Life is hard enough. We didn't choose a pandemic, but we got one. We didn't choose a national crisis, but we got one. We didn't choose an economic crisis, but we got one, and we're living it. We're all living through it. But we can choose to decide how we're going to experience these things. If we're going to allow this experience to continue to refine, continue to strengthen us, and bond us together. We can choose to have an open heart and an open mind towards what we can learn and what we can and how we can grow during a season like this. At the start, when this whole thing started, one of the first messages I shared with the church was about liminal space. I don't know if any of you remember that, but back when one of the first live streams we did talked about liminal space, and liminal space is this thing that it's a time period where you're in transition, where there's lots of unknown, where the way the world used to be is no more, and the way the world is hopefully going to be isn't there yet, and you're kind of in a middle place, a transitory place where there's lots of unknown. Sociologists call this liminal space, and we're together living through a liminal space. And I gave you this quote from Richard Rohr, which I'm going to revisit here. This is what Father Richard Rohr says about liminal space. He says, all transformation takes place here in liminal space. We have to allow ourselves to be drawn out of business as usual and remain patiently on the threshold. That's the liminal thing, the liminal part, where we are betwixt and between the familiar and the completely unknown. There alone, our old world is left behind, while we are not yet sure of a new existence. That's a good space where genuine newness can begin. I want you to remember that phrase. Genuine newness. That is a place where genuine newness can begin. And then he says this, and this is counterintuitive. It kind of sounds a bit like the guy in Ecclesiastes. He says, get there often and stay there as long as you can by whatever means possible. Get there to this liminal space, to this window that we're living in. It is the realm where God can best get at us, because our false certitudes are finally out of the way. Sometimes it takes a little disequilibrium in order for us to be open to something new, and in order for us to be open to what God might be trying to show us and teach us and to help us understand. But that can also be exhausting. They can also be difficult. They can also wear us out and wear us down with everything else that's going on. But in this liminal space, he says, genuine newness can begin. And we're approaching 6 months of life being turned upside down. We're tired. We're afraid. We're exhausted. Irritated. We're concerned about many things. And we're still uncertain about so much. Living in ambiguity and uncertainty about what the future holds. But in this place, some genuine newness can be found. A new birth, a new understanding, a new stage of growth, a new level of interaction with God, a new level of peace that has weathered a storm, a new level of understanding about yourself, who you are, what you're wired to do or be. This is what happens in liminal space. It's a time of mourning, not feasting. It's a time of frustration, not so much laughter. So as we continue to live in this liminal space, I'd like to tell you by next Thursday it'll be over and we can move on with our lives, but that's not what liminal space is, right? We just don't know. As we continue to live through some liminal space, let me give you a couple of encouragements. Let me give you a couple of suggestions. The first is this: go easy on yourself. Right? Go easy on yourself. We're all like figuring this out. This is all of our first time living through a global pandemic. It's a little bumpy. Go easy on yourself. Don't be too critical of yourself. That voice in your head that kind of continues to, smack you down a little bit, tell it to back down. Tell it to back off. Be careful how you talk to yourself. If you don't seem to be functioning at 100%, it's okay. Don't beat yourself up for that. I was I had dinner with a few pastors a few weeks ago, and as we were talking, the one pastor said, I feel like I'm operating at like 70% capacity with just everything that's going on. And he says, the other night I was at dinner and I scooped the potatoes at dinner and then I put them into my water glass, like without even thinking. He was like, and it took him a second. He's like, what am I doing? What just happened? He's like, this is just life right now. I'm functioning at like 70% capacity. Something's just not right. So go easy on yourself, right? If you're like, I should be using this time to write a book. I should be using this time to get all this house projects done. Maybe, but maybe not. Take it easy on yourself. The other thing is closely related to that, but slightly different. And this is what I want you to do. I want you to take care of yourself. Right? We got to take care of ourselves through a season like this so that we are able to care for others around us. But maybe that just means getting a good night's rest. Choosing to get to bed. Maybe it's turning off Netflix and choosing to sleep a little. Get a good night's rest. Or maybe it's taking a nap in the middle of the day because you just feel so exhausted and you never really felt like that before. Maybe it's doing some exercise, taking care of yourself by going on a walk or starting an exercise program. Maybe it's taking care of yourself by hanging out with some friends, interacting with people that you really like being around, figuring out how to do that in appropriate ways. Or maybe it's going for a walk in the woods. If you like to swim, go swimming. If you like to read, maybe read more. If you like to mow the lawn, just keep mowing it and then stop by the church and mow ours too. So, or if you like to play sports, maybe play some more sports, but take care of yourself. So take it easy on yourself, but also take care of yourself. And lastly, I want to encourage you in this, and that is reach out. Reach out. We are socially distanced. Part of what it means to be church and part of a primary dynamic and part of the core DNA of a church is community. Not because community for community's sake, but community because community helps people flourish. It helps people do well. Community helps us be good humans, and it helps us connect with God in meaningful ways. So don't isolate yourself. I'm glad you're here. And if you're watching this tonight on YouTube or some later time on YouTube, you should be here. I don't know why you're not here, but you should be here and interacting with us and hanging out, reaching out. Maybe it's reaching out to a friend to connect, to meet, or having a few people over in the backyard. We all need connection and community. So reach out. So collectively, we're living in the house of mourning rather than the house of feasting. It's a bit of where we're at as a culture, and that's okay. But this experience can help us grow. It can help us become more centered, more empathetic. Things are getting excited out there, aren't they? I'm almost done, I swear. I have like 2 more sentences. Oh, little doggy's running off. This is real life right here, you know what I'm saying? This is part of just embracing the realities, right? This is why, it's partly why churches don't do church outside, right? But there's some good reality here too. So anyway, I'm done here. So what was I saying? This experience that we are walking through can help us grow. It can help us become more centered, more empathetic, more compassionate for others who have experienced difficulties. So let's do this together. Let's find genuine newness together. And together, we'll keep getting through this. So let me say a prayer for us. Jesus, thank you so much for some time here tonight to hang out with everybody, for the songs and the singing and just some of the community and the fun and the laughing that we can do together. So help us continue as we sort of collectively live through this time of mourning rather than feasting, this time of frustration rather than laughter. Help us to embrace it and help us to support one another as we embrace it, and show us the things we need to learn and grow, how we need to learn and grow. May we live in this liminal space and find some real, genuine newness as we work through it and come out the other side. So thanks for these moments here tonight. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So we're almost done with our thing here tonight. We are done? Okay. All right. I think we were going to do... All right. So we're done. So anyway, so we're really glad that you chose to be here tonight. Thanks for coming out and hanging out with us. We say 6 to 8. We start a little after 6, and we try to end before 8, so that gives you a little time on either side. I don't know what time it is. Is it 7:30? There you go. You got a half an hour to hang out, have a good time. So don't feel like you have to run off. Maybe you do have to run off because you got family or something. You got to get home and mow your yard. But anyway, feel free to hang out, have some snacks over here, and we're just glad you're here. And if you do need anything or have any questions, please let us know. And thanks for coming out. So until next time, Godspeed.